Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. If you haven't finished your holiday shopping yet, don't panic. We've got a secret source for incredible original gifts, and that's Uncommon Goods. They've got unique handpicked gifts for everyone on your list all in one spot. I'm currently scouring the site for an upcoming white elephant party. They have so many truly original items such as customizable ornaments, a pickleball paddle snack tray, and hand-painted floral flat candles. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, and not the same old selections you could find just anywhere. And even better, with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they'll give $1 back to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/dateable. That's uncommongoods.com/dateable for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Yes, we all know the quality of makeup and skincare products are important, but have you ever thought about how you apply them is even more important for results? Since 2019, Anissa Beauty has been leading the way in creating vegan and cruelty-free makeup and skincare brushes that are safe for your skin and the planet and are designed to optimize the application and absorption of skincare products. Their popular Pinnacle foundation brush has made such a big difference for me. I used to hate wearing foundation because it always felt so caked on, but with this brush, I can use so little product and it goes on flawlessly due to its patented triangular shape. Anissa Beauty's brushes deliver value and quality like no other. The same goes for their Pinnacle Skin Brush, which has completely changed how I apply skincare. I no longer use my hands to apply my products. Check out the Pinnacle Foundation Brush as well as several other amazing brushes at anissabeauty.com and get 30% off site-wide with the code DATEABLE. That's ANISA beauty.com. And don't forget to use the code DATEABLE. Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Krafchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Dateable.
Starting to feel like this year is wrapping up. I'm already writing 2025 on some of my documents.
How is it December already? I think especially, like obviously we're gearing up for our book launch in January, end of January. I'm just like, oh my God, it's December.
It's time. It's time. It's actually almost mid-December, so it's not even the beginning of December. I went to tennis today and my coach was like, because she's from another country, and she's like, how come I feel like in the US after Halloween, everyone checks out? I'm like, actually, that's true.
100%.
It's over. This year's over after Halloween.
I mean, Halloween is such a good benchmark. Might as well just make that the national, done.
Yeah, this is the end of the year. Be done. I put up my tree. I'm so on it.
Yeah, same.
I'm ready. We're both ready.
We got ours right after Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving. And last year, I don't know if I told you about this, Yue, but we were driving ours back, and then all of a sudden we heard this thud, as we went under the garage. And you know how there's it's the water bowl that's kind of on the bottom.
Oh, you have a real tree.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Do you not do a real tree?
Oh, hell no. That is so much work.
You gotta do the real tree.
That's so much work.
Oh, it's the best. It smells so good and all of it. We get the real tree every year. It's totally worth it.
Got it. All right. I'm like, what water bowl? I have a tree skirt.
Oh my God. You're one of those. No.
Yeah, I'm not cleaning up that tree after the holidays.
It's so worth it to go real. So worth it.
Okay,
we
so
will
what
have
happened?
this debate. But anyways, we're going under the garage and just hear this noise. And it hit the clearance path. Luckily, there was no damage done at all. But this year, we're we need to make sure that we can get through. So I got out of the car. It was go slow, go slow, go slow.
So
but we didn't have the water
fall?
ball. No, it just the stand where the water thing was, it bent.
Oh, okay.
It ended up
That's
being
good.
fine, but like we just heard this like real loud noise and it did not sound good, but it was okay. This year though, we were extra cautious to make it through.
Good.
In San Francisco, there's the tree lot, which is put on by the guardsmen, which I don't know how you would describe them. I could just describe them as like an adult fraternity.
Yeah, I say it's an old fraternity.
All their stuff goes to charity. They always throw like events and stuff. They do this big crab feed every year that it is my favorite, hands down, of holidays. And it's in the tree lot. There's all the Christmas trees everywhere. Everyone's at these long tables, all you can eat crab. And then it becomes like a dance party after where everyone smells like crab. It is the perfect event. The perfect event.
Yeah, everyone's fingers smells like crab.
I want someone to meet like a partner there. We actually went one year, remember? And we met a girl that listened to our podcast.
Yes.
Like a couple years we've run into people. So we go there. We went there for the tree lot. In the past, though, last year we didn't. We cut a corner because it is a little overpriced because it's for the children.
Children are expensive.
When I say for the children, it's like...
Children in need, not just like any children.
Yeah. Well, that's how they get you because like the crab feed's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
And my friend is in the guardsman. He's like, don't you want to send a child to summer camp this year?
My
And I'm like,
gosh.
God damn it.
Guilt tripped you like that?
Yeah, it's all like for charity. So that's how they can justify like inflating the prices a bit. But last year we went purposely to this faraway one. So it was cheaper. And then it ended up being the same price. So this year we're just like, fuck it. We're going.
Trees are expensive. There's a premium for real trees. But back to the guardsmen, I want to know if this is just a San Francisco thing or is it nationwide?
Oh, the guardsman is just San Francisco.
Just San Francisco. And then at some point you age out of it, right?
No, so that's the bachelors of SF.
Oh, those are the younger
was the other
dudes.
one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there were two of these like groups. Remember we used to go to that event that they'd have every year. It was like the cocktails on Maiden Lane.
And then they age out when they're 30?
Yeah. So if it's 35 is the limit, or if you get married, because it's bachelors. I don't know if it's like if you're in a serious relationship, they probably aren't like that strict.
Right.
But yeah, my friend that guilted me about the children, he got booted out at 35.
Right.
But the guardsman is forever.
Got it. Okay, the guardsman's like you just like you can be old as fuck and still be in the guardsman.
Yeah.
But the bachelors, got it. Because I remember meeting that guy that I thought liked boys, and I was so convinced there was a guy at one of the bachelor's events. I thought he was going to be my bestie. Like, we had the best time. We were hanging out. I thought he was into boys the whole time. My guard was down with this one. And turns out he liked girls. He did.
That was one of my favorite stories. It was actually, so yeah, you met him at the bachelor's party. And then he was also at the guardsman crab feed. And okay, the crab feed, it's all you can eat, all you can drink. In our younger days, we used to take advantage.
Oh, all you can drink till you puke.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So like there was one year that Yue and I went together and we met up with other people after. They were just like, holy shit. We were fucked up. We were really fucked up.
I fell down standing. I was just standing talking to someone and I fell.
You did. And then... So after this wrapped, we should have gone home at this point. But no, we continued. We went down the street. That's when our friends met up and they were just like, oh God. And this guy was there with Yue. And all of a sudden, I think he went in for like a kiss. And you were just like, wait, what?
I was in shock.
You like girls? What?
My body went into shock. I was like, wait.
And then I think you fell right after.
I probably fell a few times that night. That was like, I thought I had pretty good gaydar, and I was so convinced. I was like, oh my gosh, I found a new bestie. We're going to hang out. He was so cool. And then I lost him the same night.
In your defense, I also did not pick up on the vibe until he was like going in for the kiss for you.
You thought he was into boys too? Yes.
Yeah. And then when he was going into the kiss, I was like, no, he likes you, eh?
Oh, yeah. That was, wow. And now he's in a happy relationship, I see on Facebook.
Yes. Wonderful.
With a girl. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because he's not gay. We just have bad gaydar. That's what the moral here is.
I will still, till this day, say that was the biggest mindfuck because I was so convinced. Like, what? How could this be?
But you were also like 10 drinks in too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Of course. Good times. But all to bring it back to the real tree that you have in your home.
Yeah. You got to go real. I'm still sticking with that.
I'm in LA. You got to go fake. You got to go fake, baby. Fake everything.
I want to know what our listeners think. We're going to put a poll up on Instagram. Real or fake tree? Like, what do you do? Not like what do you prefer, but like what do you actually do?
Right. Yeah. Not what you prefer, but what do you do? Do you actually have a tree? I would love to know. I know a lot of people who don't even have trees. But if you do, go the tree route. Real or fake?
I don't know. This is like kind of weird, but because I never had a tree growing up, I was raised Jewish. And I still am Jewish. That hasn't changed. But I mean, part of it is my partner is not Jewish. Yeah. So for him, we get it. But I admit that I did get one. I got a baby one. I didn't get like the big one. I got a baby one even before I met him. But I was having like people over for a holiday event.
Right.
I don't know if I would have done it just like for myself, but I do really like getting them.
I like decorating them. I like putting the ornaments up.
Yeah.
It's so festive, so fun. I got all these like tennis ornaments this year. Tennis ornaments.
Nice.
So I'm leaning in.
So I feel like I haven't seen a lot of tennis ornaments, but pickleball are everywhere. Everywhere. But last year, my partner's sister-in-law and brother, they thought our tree looked a little sad. Oh. So they sent us a bunch of ornaments, which was super nice. Yeah, they gave us like a taco and burrito and book. Like all these like really nice ones. And they're like filler ornaments to give it more life.
Those are very random ornaments you just named. A taco, a burrito, and a book. Like I'm thinking if filler ornaments, I'm thinking snowflake, a snowman, like a disco ball.
Oh. No, those were like the big ones they gave us. They had like filler that were just like little round ones.
Like actual they're ornaments. Yeah.
Yeah. Actual ornaments, yes. So they gave us that plus these like 3 nicer ones.
A taco, a burrito, and a book.
Yeah. Well, the taco and burrito came together as a pair.
Oh.
And then the book.
That's cute.
I think the taco burrito was probably for my partner, and then the book was for me.
Obviously. No, I thought you and your partner are taco and burrito together, like as a pair.
I don't know. You can interpret it many ways.
Oh boy, reading into ornaments that people gift you. I want to do an ornament exchange next year. I think that would be fun.
Oh.
I know I will want to see what other people have.
Well, last year, my partner did give me an ornament. It was a trophy. And it says, #1 girlfriend.
Oh, my gosh. That is so cute. That is, okay. So I know that we don't talk too much about our private, personal lives, but I can tell you all, she and her partner are so cheesy over text. In the cutest way. I'm saying this the cutest way because you all don't see it. But when we were away on a retreat, Julie had to stop mid-conversation to show me the stickers that she was sending her partner that involved flying kisses and a bear, I think, like in under bed sheets. I don't know. There was a bear. Was there a bunny?
Yes, it's a bunny and a bear set.
Bunny and bear set. And there's a few of these stickers. Yes. And she was so upset because her stickers weren't sending full size to her partner. And she couldn't figure out why.
But he got them.
But he got them full size. She couldn't see them full size. So she stopped our conversation to let me know how distraught she was from this.
And that it got resolved.
And that, yes, thank you. I'm glad that we closed the loop on it because I couldn't sleep that night. I was like, what happened? I need to know the ending to this.
Yeah, you were just like, you guys are really cheesy.
She doesn't send me any of these stickers, y'all. Like, it's not there. I've never seen any.
I mean, I can. Are you sure you want to ask for that?
I don't know because I've never been on the receiving end. So I wouldn't know till I actually received one.
I'll send you one at night before bed.
Okay, it better come full size.
So just as disclosure, this is something we did early on, and I think it was really nice because it gave us like this, I don't know, like kind of shared language. I used to always send like the kissy emoji, and then somehow we got into these stickers with, it's called Bunny Boo and Barreloo for anyone interested. You can search them. I'm like cringing as I say this. But anyways, it was like a nice shared language. And now that we live together, we don't send them at night, like before bed. I'm not like texting them while he's like right next to me. So when I was away with you, it was kind of like a nice reason to do it.
Yeah, to revisit. Also, by the way, Julie's also like, ew, anybody who calls their partner babe or baby, ew. She's like so cheesy calling someone babe, but bear boo blue boomny bunny boo boo.
Oh my god.
But this is all to say, yes, you do you. But in the beginning stages of a relationship, this is actually a good transition to what we're talking about in this episode. It's like there's a lot of anxiety in early dating when you're trying to establish this common language and you don't really know if you're on the same page yet. And maybe how you got over your anxiety was by sharing these stickers with your partner early on.
I mean, every night when I got them, I think that actually it wasn't just the stickers, but like in this relationship, I didn't experience a lot of anxiety and overthinking. And that was something that I was very prone to in dating. And it still creeps in from time to time. I'm not going to say it's gone completely. And I think this is a combination of doing the work, like working on this, knowing that it was a challenge for me, but then also meeting a partner that didn't trigger anxiety.
Exactly.
So it's a combo.
Yes. And anxiety is something that we can't avoid. There's just no way.
No.
We all have some level of anxiety. And the person who really put it out there for all of us to follow her anxiety-ridden journey is Sabrina Zohar. You might know her from social media and the host of the Sabrina Zohar show. She's also just blown up on TikTok with just documenting everything that we feel internally. She'll say it out loud, and she's proud to lean into the anxious side of her.
I feel like I saw Sabrina all the time on TikTok. Just her videos would always come up, and I really admired how she was just working through it real time. She really talked about too, like a lot how, of course, some of it's the partner that you choose, but part of it is like your childhood and self-esteem and boundaries and like all the works that are playing into what makes us feel this anxiety, and also how like a lot in dating is centered around this. There's a lot of BS, and she kind of brands herself as like the dating coach who's tired of the BS and here to help move through anxiety and doing the work. We really wanted to get Sabrina on this podcast because, you know, we talk about overthinking a lot and imposter syndrome when dating and anxiety, of course, they're all kind of tied together in my opinion. And this conversation, like these are heavy topics, but I like that it's in a very light way, that we share like past experiences. It's a funny conversation despite the heaviness of topics, but she also gives really tangible ways to move through this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just like, let's talk about anxiety. There's actually some tactics that I like went back and did like after we heard them from her on this episode.
She's super relatable, and I like that she talks about how doing the work is an everyday thing. It's not like you've done the work and now you're no longer anxious. She admits that it's definitely going to creep back up, but then now you have some tools to manage it. So this is a great episode for anybody who has ever experienced anxiety in dating, which is probably 100% of you. And if you are in denial, you should come out of denial.
Yeah, we did a poll and it was like, what, 97% of people?
I'm like, who are the 3%? Come on. How could that be? And then also just like if you've struggled with self-esteem, boundaries, voicing your needs, which I would also assume 100% of us have experienced, it's also a great episode to understand that that's totally normal. So you understand how to really lean into who you are and being authentically who you are so you can have a stronger sense of self.
Also, like for anyone that has a mental model of love that isn't serving them, we really break down how our upbringing, all of that plays into the way we date today. So whether that's through your parents or just unhealthy dating experiences, untangling that mental model is really core for getting ahead of anxiety and overthinking.
I think she's gotten to the point, and you'll hear in this episode, when something does trigger her, she can almost pinpoint the exact moment in her childhood when this trigger first happened. So that's kind of a skill to really work on too. It's like, I know where this is coming from. I can name the exact date that this happened.
Yeah, and I think a big piece of it too is Sabrina shares a lot of tactics of how you control your anxiety instead of letting it control you. I don't think anyone is saying like, don't feel anxious. Like that's really hard to tell anyone that experiences anxiety. But as a fellow anxious person, having the tools to not let it totally take over is a way to move past it.
And gaining back that control so you no longer feel like you're the victim. You feel like, okay, I can be empowered to not only control the anxiety, but harness the anxiety in a way that serves me better.
Yep. So this is a pretty action-packed episode. A lot of good stuff. I honestly feel like I need to re-listen to it again. It might be one of those that I just re-listen to a couple times to take it all in. So really excited to bring you this episode, and we'll get into it in a minute. Okay. Well, before we get into it, at DATEABLE Podcast, keep in touch with us on Instagram. Also, if you haven't pre-ordered the book yet, it's time to do so. You still get all of your free extras that we calculated is about $108 value, which is really nice. It's like Christmas and Hanukkah and all the holidays, Kwanzaa, all rolled into one. Those are all free things for you with just the purchase of the book, which could be audiobook, Kindle, hardcover, you choose.
And one of the free gifts actually targets anxiety. We really go into this topic quite elaborately. So it's really great for this time of the year when everyone's feeling a little anxious.
That's a really good point, because this can give more tactical tools also to start to navigate anxiety. Okay, so howtobedateable.com. You can do it all there. And yeah, treat yourself to that early holiday gift, and you get the immediate gift of all these extra freebies. Okay, well, before we get into it, let's hear a message from our sponsor.
With this holiday season, I have some major aspirations of learning a new language so I can be better prepped when I travel internationally next year. I feel like being able to speak the language in the country I'm visiting can open doors to meaningful conversations and better cultural appreciation. I mean, how else am I going to get the lowdown on how people date locally? And now with Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program, I can make those new language dreams a reality. Available on desktop or as an app, Rosetta Stone truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. For example, there are no English translations, so you really have to learn to speak, listen, and think in that language, allowing for fast language acquisition. And the built-in true accent feature gives you feedback on your pronunciation, just like having a personal trainer for your accent. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a limited time, Dateable listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership holiday special. This offer will not last long. Visit rosettastone.com/today. That's unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your holiday offer at rosettastone.com/today for yourself or as a gift that keeps giving.
The holiday season is right around the corner, and I know the perfect gift that I will most definitely be giving this year. Osea's limited edition Super Glow Body Set. It includes 3 of Osea's best-selling body care products at an incredible value, packed in a box so beautiful you can skip the wrapping paper. This is gifting made easy. We've said it before on the podcast, but both Yue and I are obsessed with their new Undaria algae body wash, which is part of the set. But all of the products in this set, the body wash, body oil, and body serum, feel like you're taking a luxurious trip to the spa. They just leave your skin feeling silky soft and unbelievably glowing. So maybe while you're at it too, you'll want to grab one for yourself. But hurry before this limited edition sells out. Give the gift of glow this holiday season with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now we have a special discount for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with the code DATEABLEPODCAST at OseaMalibu.com. Okay, let's hear it from Sabrina Zohar.
Sabrina, so nice to have you on Dateable. We are very much looking forward to this discussion because you are the woman who has so candidly documented her journey with anxiety. And it's so refreshing because you're just like so honest about everything that you've been through. And to me, I relate to so much of your content because sometimes I'm like, fuck it. I'm done. I'm giving up right now. So you give me hope because you're like, listen, you're not the only one going through this.
Well, girls, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. And I mean, trust me when I say somebody the other day was like, oh, you're lucky you're married. And I was like, I don't know what false news you read. I am not married. I am not that lucky. I dated in New York and LA for 15 years. Like, yeah. Trust me when I say I was in the trenches. I put the war paint on. Like, I know what you guys are going through.
Yes.
But you came out the other side, and I love that we got to see it all. So, I mean, maybe take us back before you started doing videos, before you started documenting. What was like pre all of this Sabrina like when it came to dating?
Oh my God. I was such a hot mess. I had so much anxiety. I'm born and raised in Florida. I moved to New York when I just turned 19. So I was a kid when I got to New York. And I attribute, like, I grew up there is kind of what I say. Because, like, I did. I grew the fuck up living in the city. Mm-hmm. And I was just, my God, I was the poster child for that anxious attachment. Like, just constantly needing external validation, not being able to sit still, trying anything I could to avoid doing work on myself, and being so unaware about how my childhood dynamics played into my adult life that I was dating the same types of people. I would freak the fuck out if I didn't get a text within like 5 minutes of sending one. I was checking minutes that would go by. I was so anxious. I like literally couldn't sit still. I was just not able to even get through my days. I would take naps in the day because I struggled to just stay awake and deal with the unknown. And what I just realized along the way was like, as I lived in New York and realized like, okay, I don't think this place is for me anymore. 12 years. Like, I think we're good. I started my clothing company there. I was married to a man that was just like my father. And I was like, I think it's time to move on. So I decided to move to LA and had even worse dating experiences and really started to see the disconnect between a lot of the content I was seeing on the internet of like, do this to get this, but then seeing my life play out and going, I don't understand, but I'm listening to what you're saying. And then I'm getting this situation and it just like wasn't aligning. And so 2022, I was supposed to do Shark Tank and I was on set like, this is it. Let's go. Like, for my clothing company software, it's going to change my life. At that point, I changed the way I dated earlier in that year. And I was really starting to like set boundaries, say no. And like, that was really scary for me, but I started to implement things that I'd been learning. And after Shark Tank, so I was on set for 12 hours and then they sent me home at the last minute saying, sorry, we can't fit you on today. Try again later.
Shit.
And it was, talk about fucking whoosh, rock bottom. And what changed my mindset, I think, about everything was I had a date with this guy like 2 weeks prior to the filming. And we kept in contact. He was an entrepreneur. And so he was super inspired by what I was doing. And I remember the day I got home and like I was stoic, like I couldn't comprehend what just happened because talk about my life, I thought it was going in one way and then this totally derailed me. And he called me that night and he talked me off a very dark ledge and I've never spoken to him again. But to this day, it really made me realize like, not everybody you go out with has to become something. Sometimes you really just meet people that are there at that time to save you in a way that no one that you knew could do this. And then my dog got sick a month later. He passed away. It was like one thing led to another to where I finally just realized like, I'm fucking done with this. I don't want to date like this anymore. And it's time for me to change the way I do things. So I started to create content by changing how I showed up, by changing how I dated, by saying no to people, inclusive of the person I was supposed to come to San Diego with. I then came alone, single, met my partner, and here we are 2 years later.
Wow. What a story. When you talk about some of your biggest struggles with dating, I know you talk about setting boundaries and kind of like dealing with waiting for that text back and all of that. Can you give us some more specifics of the struggles that you went through?
You mean the one time I dated a guy that he broke up with me after like maybe 6 dates? Like, this wasn't anything. And I lost my fucking shit and texted him over 170 times in the day, begging for him to take me back, pleading. And then here's the irony of it. We did not get back together. Months later, if not years later, we reconnected. I was so not into him. I was so turned off. That was me. It was using my body to connect with men of like, oh, if you find me sexy and you want to have sex with me, then you're going to fall in love with me. And the more unavailable they were, the more it fueled me to go, let me try harder, because you not wanting me means I need to try harder because there's something wrong with me, right? So let me get you to prove that there's nothing wrong with me. And it was cyclical. It was either I was not into this person because like they just weren't my person, or I was full speed ahead. Like I'll never forget when I lived in Venice, there was this one guy and he was a YouTuber and I was fucking obsessed with this guy.
Of course he was.
Wait,
Of course.
you had me at YouTuber, okay?
And like he was just, everyone knew him and I was insane about him. And I remember the night we had our first date, my friend said, good luck, that happening. And I was like, he confirmed the date. Add insult to injury. I was like, I'm the girl he's going out with. You could, It didn't go anywhere. And like I was in total limerence. And it wasn't until I really started to peel back the layers and do the work that I started to understand like, oh, I was really into you because the idea of you choosing me meant that I would be validated, that you're super cool. So if you choose me, that means I'm cool and I'm pretty because I'm the one that got you. And that got me nowhere.
Yeah.
We call it the validation trap because I think that's why dating is so hard, because we end up looking at it as a way to measure our self-worth over just finding the right partner. I feel like for me, I was able to tie a lot back to like my mental model of love. I'm sure you've thought about it, but what's your take on like
Oh, yeah.
bringing it back?
As I've dubbed it, the bullshit blueprint that we're given, it's like you will continue to date the parts of you that are unhealed. And it's like when we even just look at it like neurologically or like on the nervous system, right? Like there's so many different ways that we could look at this. But off the bat, like when we get triggered and we go back into that amygdala part of our brain, that's responsible for emotions and feelings and stopped growing when we were 6. And so oftentimes we don't realize that when we get dysregulated, prefrontal cortex is offline. Sorry, no common sense or logic here. And all we know is as a kid, this worked for me. So let me just do this again to keep myself safe because I can't handle anymore right now. And I consistently dated men that reaffirmed to me the core belief that my father created, which was you're too much, you're not enough, and you're too sensitive, your emotions are a lot. And I always saw boundaries. No, not with a narcissistic father. That's a no-go. And I was so terrified of anyone leaving me because as a child, if my father left, I literally could have died. And so I perceived and was projecting onto all these people, you're just like my dad. And if you leave me, I'm going to die. Without realizing like, no, you met this guy on Hinge and you've known him for 2 hours. Ain't shit going to happen to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. It's like fight or flight for no reason, really. It's because of your response as a child. I feel like childhood trauma is something that's very trendy right now. Like all dinner parties I go to, everyone's like, what are your childhood traumas? But in a lot of your episodes, you talk about doing the work, and just understanding you have these childhood traumas is not enough. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it still bleeds into our everyday life. Just because you're observant of it doesn't mean that you're actually progressing out of it.
100%. I love how, like, especially in LA, you're like, that's dinner talk, right? It's like,
yeah. Who's your psychic? And tell me about your childhood trauma.
Yeah, it's like, and then you're just like, and how many followers do you have? It's like, welcome to LA. I've been to enough dinner parties. Okay, yeah. So when we talk about like, okay, self-awareness, what a great place to start, right? Like, okay, I knew for years my father was like this. Okay, so I have anxiety. But what we don't realize is how deeply tied those triggers into our nervous system that is, and how we seriously replicate this shit every single day. And I'll give you an example. When I first met my partner, sure, I was self-aware of like, hi, I'm anxious when I don't get a text. But it goes further beyond just going, okay, I'm anxious when this happens. What really doing the work means is understanding a few main components. What are the sensations in my body when I don't get this text, right? What happens to me? Do I start to sweat? Do my shoulders tense up? Is my heart pounding? Okay, so those are the bodily sensations that I'm having. What's the narrative that I'm playing right now? They didn't text me because they don't like me. What facts do I have to back up that they don't like me? Well, they just didn't text me, right? Do I have contrary beliefs? Yeah, they could be at work. Right. When they're at work, he said he's not on his phone. Got it. Okay. Then I can start to go, how old do I feel when I start to feel these triggers? Like a fucking child or like a teenager or like an angsty 20-year-old. Okay. So that's the part of me that feels it needs to protect me. So what is it trying to protect me from? Notice how self-awareness was the start of all this, right?
Yeah.
And then when you tug on the sweater string, it starts to come and unravel because, listen, self-awareness is great, but you want to stop running in circles and actually change your life, then it starts with putting space. My sister always says, don't go from feeling to fucked. And it's like when you get the trick, right? But when we look at that feeling to fucked thing, I mean, how many times, right? You get triggered and you don't even realize half the time what you're saying.
Yeah.
You don't even realize that you're reacting like a goddamn child. And you're just like, well, that's who I am. It's like, no, that's what you were taught.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think to me, like, and I'd be curious to hear you guys as well, like your journey on just getting deeper within your own trenches of like what moved the needle for you when you were doing a lot of work just internally on realizing like, oh shit, self-awareness isn't enough.
I mean, accountability. You talk about this so much. It's like if you are not accountable for your own actions. And if you don't think you have the ability to change yourself and change the situation you're in, then you're already in a screwed up position. Because now all you're doing is blaming external factors. It's your city, it's the apps, it's how I was brought up, it's my parents, it's the lack of protein in my diet, whatever. Like there's just so many other things you can blame. But for me, I think the turning point was going, okay, I need to take accountability for all of the behaviors I complain about. I cannot do those to other people. And how can I start changing my life today?
Right. I think this sounds weird because I'm all for being the main character in every part of life, but I actually had to remove myself because I think I thought the world revolved around me. Like I went on a date and the person didn't text me back. Like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Like, why aren't they doing this? It had to be taking it out, kind of like what you were saying about oh, they could be at work. There's so many other reasons, and I'm not necessarily the center of this person's world. So I think that was one piece, but then also stating my needs was a big one. I think I repressed it a lot. And what you've said actually resonates too, of feeling like you didn't have a voice growing up. And I think I actually can tie that back to of always feeling like I didn't want to rock the boat. And I didn't want to say too much. And I think for me, a huge turning point was when I was just fuck it, I'm going to say what I want. And if the wrong people disappear, then good.
See ya. And it's funny, the accountability thing too. And I have 100% that main character energy. It's I think it's cute when you're oh, I'm at work and I'm feeling myself. It's yeah, but you're not. Hey, I hate to break it to anybody. You're no one's main character until they make you a main character. It's
right.
And the accountability component. And the reason I loved what you brought up was because it highlights the difference between shame and blame and accountability, right? Shame and blame is there's something wrong with me. I'm so stupid. Of course I couldn't do this, right? And it's oh, you're on the merry-go-round of your own negative thought. And what I always ask is, whose voice is that? Because I highly doubt it's yours, and it's probably someone who's, as a kid, told you those things. Accountability, on the other hand, is, and I'll give you an example. I have a course, and a girl emailed today saying, I got a charge from this 2.5 months ago. So it's been 2.5 months, we never heard from you. I got a charge and I don't know what this is. Can you please refund me? And so we wrote back saying, hey, you joined the course. Here's the return policy. As you see, you agreed to this. You signed up using Afterpay. You went through an 8-step process to join. And she wrote back saying, no, it was a mistake. You're not being compassionate. I want my money back. Uh-oh. And so Ryan told her, and he goes, I'm trying to explain to you what mistake was there. And he lined out. And of course, what comes back? You should be ashamed of yourself. You're not being compassionate to me. I made a mistake. How dare you make me feel bad about it? You'll be hearing from me. And all I kept thinking, and of course she used my name. She goes, and Sabrina promotes positivity. I can't believe you would do this. And I said back to her, I said, you know what I also promote? Taking fucking accountability of your life. You messed up. You pressed purchase without looking at the fine print. And that is okay. I won't blame you for it. But don't you dare come back to me.
Yeah.
I have bought many a things on final sale and eat my words when I realized that was on me. I didn't see it.
Uh-huh.
It's a superpower when you can just remove yourself and stop thinking everything's happening to me and finally realize I play a part in this. It's not Sabrina's the villain because she didn't give me my money back, or this guy is the asshole because he didn't call me back. It's also, what is my part in this and how do I play in this dynamic?
I think there's something about this victim mode that a lot of us subconsciously play into. But what you were just saying, when you're not taking accountability, that is victim mode. Or when you're blaming the apps or blaming your city or whatever else you can blame out there, that's not an empowering state. So how do you move from that? Because I do think people struggle even if they don't consciously know.
Totally. I think a great place to start is just even asking, what did I have in control and in my power in this situation? It's a great place to start of just it's, because I think it's such an important conversation from victimhood into empowerment, right? How can I take accountability? I can only take 100% accountability of myself. Now, the pendulum then swings where it's so everything was my fault with my ex and and it's no. It can't have been 100% your fault, right? And it also can't be 100% not your fault. And so the first place to start is, what was my part in this? Did I have any control in this situation? And even if it's, it's these guys and all of them suck. What's my part in this? I'm the one doing the choosing, right? Okay, so I'm the one that's allowing this. Or, All these people keep ghosting me. What's my part in this? Ooh, I'm overlooking red flags, aren't I? That's in my control. I need to see how I'm showing up. How do I feel in my body? Does this work for me? I think it's also a shifting of questions that we ask ourselves. My friend Britt Frank is a brilliant neuropsychotherapist, and I'm sure you ladies know the number one question we hear on the planet is why? Mm-hmm. Why did he do this? Why doesn't he want to be with me? Why? And Britt has taught me, why is your brain's subconscious level and way of avoiding dealing with the feelings coming up for you. And so it intellectualizes. If I can see why you did this to me, then I won't feel bad, right? I don't have to deal with the emotions. And so what she learned, she was working with children who their mothers passed away from cancer. And they kept saying, why did my mom die? And after working with this and doing this for years, she started to realize, you don't give a shit about why she passed. What it means is, I don't like this. It makes me uncomfortable. And so now we start to reframe, right? If you came to me and said, why didn't this guy call me back? I would say, can you reframe that? I don't like that he didn't call me back. Okay, what don't you like about it? I didn't feel like a priority, or I didn't feel important. Okay, right. Is this a core belief? You see how we can start to understand ourselves more when we get out of the why, woe is me, and we reframe. And I get how scary that can feel if you grew up in a household where you were not allowed to do that.
True.
But the beauty is you're an adult now.
Yeah.
So what's nice is it takes you out of rumination, because I think that's where the overthinking and anxiety happens, opposed to reflection, where we can actually process and move forward. What's some advice that you have for people that, your past self, something that you maybe overcame, of like getting out of those overthinking, ruminating patterns?
I love that. I think the best place to start is to, one, I have a trigger journal. And so I'll write down like, what was the trigger? How did that manifest in my body? And what was the narrative? And what I start to look at is then looking at patterns, right? So if I'm overthinking, if the first thing I notice might be, oh, my shoulders are tense, right? Or, oh my God, I'm on this loop. Doing anything, even just saying, I'm going to go for a walk. Anything to cut through, because what ends up happening is our nervous system, when we're on that loop, right? When you're ruminating, you're just restarting that clock. You're not processing anything. And as we do that, what ends up happening is your brain is consistently thinking, she's in danger, there's a threat, she's not okay. So you're dysregulated. If we can do anything, there are tools, simple tools like scanning for safety. It's something I like to use. And it just means if you stay at eye level and you look from left to right, and you count as you're going across the room, specifically left to right, and you start to notice 3 things in your surroundings, it brings you back to the present moment. And so when we're an overthinker, for me, my first thing is, I need to go for a walk. I have a code word. I'll be like, I'm on loop, and I'll scream it, and I'll drop my phone, and I'm like,
I love that.
Just for something for me. My partner has his word because he has OCD, so he has his way of like breaking it. So I think the important thing is to be aware of what that looks like for you, because if I don't know how I overthink and what happens, I might not realize, oh, I bite my nails every time. Oh, I'm doom scrolling on my phone. Oh, I'm super tense in my shoulders. I overlook that and I'm spiraling and ruminating, because spiraling and ruminating is ultimately just reaffirming your core beliefs. So once you regulate and you come back to the present moment, then we could start to look at that narrative and we can start to have the adult voice louder than that inner child that's trying to protect you.
I appreciate that, because you're not saying stop overthinking. I think that's the advice that we've gotten for so many years. It's like, oh, you're an overthinker? Then stop thinking. Just don't breathe. Yeah, just die. Then you'll stop overthinking and then you'll be fine. Come back a brand new person. But what you're saying is regulating, identifying the symptoms of the onset symptoms, right? But also something you talk about on your podcast is you talk about how you have to know when you're regulating versus disconnecting. Like listening to loud music when you're ruminating is probably disconnecting and probably distracting yourself. But going for a walk, a quiet walk to really feeling those feelings, that's regulating. So maybe give us some of those examples. When are you doing something that's distracting and disconnecting versus something that's beneficial?
You made such a good point. This is the problem. We get so much advice of like, just be happy. And you're like, oh, is that it? Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I've been just doing this wrong the whole time.
I'm healed.
Right? Oh, that's it. Just be
Good
happy.
to go.
That's it. And so it's like, I think that's, ultimately at the end of the day, regulating, and I'm glad you brought this up, doesn't mean that it goes away, right? It doesn't just mean that you're like, oh, I'm fine, everything's okay. What it means is you have agency and choice and you're in this moment to decide what you want to do here. And so a big difference is like what we like to look at is if we think when we're dysregulated, let's even just, I'm going to do a very quick polyvagal thing. Polyvagal is a theory about the nervous system. If we look at it like a ladder, they see it as ventral being at the top. I'm safe, right? We're ventral right now. We're able to have a communication and conversation. We're able to hold space. We're able to critically think, right? The second you get dysregulated, you are no longer able to make decisions from the place of common sense. Your prefrontal cortex, as Britt Frank says, the top of the office building, lights are off. So the inmates are running the asylum. So what we like to look at is, for instance, if we look and we go down to sympathetic, right? I have too much energy. I feel like I'm going to go and say, like, I fight or flight. I need to fight. I need to move, right? I have this immobilized energy. Then what we have to do is move it safely. And what a lot of people think is, I'm just going to go to the gym. And it's like, you go on a run. Guess what? That tiger's still chasing you. So what we want to do is, that's why walking, bilateral movements, right? The side to side helps. And what I do is I make it a very intentional walk. So it's not about, I want to get lost in something. It's, I want to become present in this moment. So distracting is, I want to get lost. I want to avoid, okay, I'll listen to music. I'll fade. I'll go into a distance, right? I'll start to fantasize and romanticize and go into a different world. Whereas regulating your nervous system is really about being in this moment, because regulating allows your body to know, hey, there's no threat. Look, I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm in this room right now. That's why scanning for safety. You could do the shakes. Be careful. I broke my foot doing that. So just don't jump too high.
Wow.
Yeah. But like doing something, you can punch a pillow, right? Like if I once had trolls that left me negative comments, and my friend Masha is a nervous system specialist, and she goes, punch the air. She's like, fight them. And I was like, oh yeah. Fight them off. And then you're like, okay, right? Like, okay, I'm back. Like I really went for it. And I was like, okay, I feel better. I moved that energy. That's when you're sympathetic. You move the energy, you go back up to that ventral state. But then if we have it the other state way around, right? You're all the way down. Have we ever shut down, right? You get so sad. Like I remember when I had to change the name and I got my cease and desist, which was so fun. I shut down. Like I literally just couldn't move. It was just, it's freeze or fawn, right? So that's a different response of my brain was so overwhelmed. It was so much trauma. It couldn't handle this reality. It just went, nope, she can't do it, shut down. And I just sat and stared, literally crying for 36 minutes at the floor at one spot.
Wow.
Because that's shutdown. When things like that happen, what we want to look at is, I ruminated. I was on a loop until my partner came in, and that's what got me out. So co-regulating is a beautiful way. Something as simple as when you feel you're shut down, sitting up straight. Even just, it's about giving yourself a little bit more of that immobilized energy. It could be a cup of tea, wrapping yourself in a blanket. It's those things that, you start to sit up a little straighter. Then, once you do that, the important thing to look at is, what is my need right now? Because when you're dysregulated, you don't think about your needs. So oftentimes, I'm sure you gals know what I mean. When you get dysregulated, you're like, I'm so anxious. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I don't want to drink anything. I don't want to take care of myself, because your body is in survival mode. Of course, it's not going to think about eating. It's trying to survive. So my thing is, whenever I feel, especially when I'm shut down, I'll literally stop and I'm like, ooh, I'm really shut down. I can feel it in my body. I'll sit up a little straighter and I'll ask myself, what do I need right now? And usually I'll be like, not this. And I'll put my phone away, because that thing is the enemy.
Yeah.
It's not going to help. Do something. So sometimes, right, if you were to say, oh God, Sabrina, I'm so anxious right now. I can't fucking sit still. What do I need right now? You know what? Some fresh air and some water. I need to get light. I just need energy. I'm a plant, right? I need some substance. So it's really just about looking, am I allowing the thought process to distract me, as in I'm getting lost in a different thought and I'm not actually seeing progress? Or am I regulating and coming back to the present moment? That'll give you a differentiating factor between, am I distracting so I don't have to deal with this? Or am I facing it head on, but coming back to a place where I have agency and choice in order to do so?
Great distinction.
I love that. That's so helpful. Just the practical tips too of feeling into it. That's so great. I think a lot of times, like you were saying, it's just just some vagueness, right? And I love that. I think one of the areas that always gets people, right, in dating and relationships with anxiety is that it feels like that point where they're more invested and there's a chance of it not working out. I know for me, it was when I was like, oh, I like someone. And then that anxiety would come when they hadn't set up that next date. And I'm curious, for you, what are some of the ways that you either help people, or maybe even with your own story, come to terms with letting go of look, if this is meant for me, it'll work out. And if not, then it doesn't, and kind of letting go of that anxiety.
So I think a great place to start, I'm going to be a broken record. Regulating your nervous system is at the root of all of this, right? Even just coming back, because when we think about what is anxiety, it's a fear of the future. That's what anxiety is, right? Anxiety is a secondary emotion. Fear is the primary emotion. If we saw Inside Out and Inside Out 2, which is my favorite fucking children's movie. Also, so like when we look at that, what I usually hear first from a lot of people is, I hate that I do this. I hate this, right? Ugh, I wish this would stop. So think about if the little you was sitting next to you, and imagine if I came to you and said that, I hate that you do this. You really need to stop. You're fucking annoying. You would look at me and be like, wow, you're just a terrible person. Like, why would you speak to me like that?
Right.
But yet that's how we speak to ourselves. So when I used to just spiral in my shit, my first thing was, okay, I have to remember I was good before them, I'll be good after. Like having my mantras, they're an addition to your life, Zohar, they're not instead of. And if I started to find myself looping on them, usually what that meant was I'm attaching, I'm not connecting. Attaching comes from a place of fear. They're going to leave me. They're going to abandon me. They're going to reject me. My narrative, my loop, right? I have to save this at all costs. I need to be in control of this. Versus connecting is, I want this person in my life. I don't need them in my life. I want to share that with this person, but I don't have to have this person in my life. And so at least after a date, what I love to do is first do a self-check-in of, how did I feel when I was with this person? I don't give a fuck how you felt about them. How did I feel? How did my body feel? Did they listen to me? Did I feel seen, heard, and understood? Did they make space for me? Okay, cool. Next up, the question I would ask is, what are my expectations that I'm projecting onto this person? Well, I'm a little too excited already because I'm getting anxious that they haven't texted me. Okay, so my expectations are an unmet need, right? So I'm expecting that this person's going to come save me. Well, that just shows me that I have a little bit more work to do. Because here's the thing, dating, it is anxiety inducing, right? Like
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think of me. I don't know how I feel about you. And so I think what we really want to look at is, what are my tools that I can tap into? Because when we start to idealize, we project, we fantasize, when the anxiety starts to set in, really what I like to look at is, how old do I feel, right? Do I feel like a kid? Yeah, this guy reminds me of my dad and I'm really hoping that he doesn't leave me. Or this feeling reminds me of something I dealt with as a kid. And then how can I create a safe space for myself to explore that so I can come back home into my own body and not judge myself like, you're a human. It's going to happen. But it's also about looking and saying, what am I projecting onto this person? What do I think that having this person is going to do to me? Because if I'm YouTuber, right, when I was just so anxious that he hadn't called me, was because I thought if he chooses me, then I'd be validated. Okay, so what do I need at that moment? To validate myself and to acknowledge he doesn't meet my needs. It's not about me not matching his needs.
Yeah, and that's a really hard distinction sometimes because we get so attached to the outcome, which is like the story we hear many times is that people get their hopes up and they think things are going really well. And all of a sudden they're experiencing some sort of disappointment. So then they would ask, like, I did all the stuff to regulate myself. I did all the stuff to relinquish control. Yet I'm still disappointed at the end, where this person still was not able to commit to me. What advice would you give to those people who are like, I'm trying my best, but shitty things are still happening?
One, you're a human. It's going to happen. You're allowed to be disappointed. You're allowed to be pissed off. You're allowed to do all of those things. So that's the first stop of like, that's okay, right? We don't have to pretend to be something we're not. Like none of us are these emotionless, robots walking around. It's going to hurt. Okay, well, then I would have to look at and say, is this a pattern? Right? If we're seeing a pattern, well, then what is the pattern here? Is it consistently that after 3 dates, you're not getting a fourth date? Okay, so then are we oversharing on that third date? Are we not setting boundaries early on? Are we not communicating on the first date about what it is that you want and what your intentions are? And then just understanding as well, am I being a better buyer? Am I choosing these people on the apps because they're attractive? Oh, well, then maybe that's the problem. I'm not seeing any depth about them. The reason I say this isn't about shame or blame. It's about understanding how much control we do have in our lives, how much agency we have. At the end of the day, listen, how many times I've auditioned for like 8 shows in the last 2 months to be a host, and I haven't gotten any of them. And every time I'm bummed and I'm disappointed, but I always remember it's not for me then. I don't need to force something that doesn't align with me. And releasing that allows me to say, well, then you know what? It's not for me. Something better is to come. This or better.
Yeah.
I want to dive into this even more, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from our partners.
Cuffing season, or as we like to call fluffing season, is here. Want to add some holiday cheer into the bedroom? Spice up your life with the natural power of cannabis with Via. Via has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a medium dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love. And they just dropped their High Love bundle, which includes a pack of gummies and a vape, so you can unlock the full experience at a reasonable price. I am all about these gummies that make me feel oh so good. I tell you, it's the real deal. And if THC isn't for you, you can still take advantage of their CBD line with products designed for sleep, focus, and energy that will keep you glowing all year long. So if you're 21 or older, head to viiahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIAHEMP.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with high love from Via Hemp. It feels so great when you can get someone a gift they wouldn't necessarily get for themselves. It's like a little reminder that they're worth it. So for quality gifts at an affordable price, my go-to is Quince. There's something for everyone. And I truly think you can't go wrong with their cashmere line, including their iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which start at just $50. I actually just got the short sleeve version in brown, and it looks so luxe paired with some white slacks and brown loafers. Hello, rich auntie vibes. And for whatever you're looking for, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They can do this by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, which passes the savings on to you. Gift luxury this holiday season without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/dateable for 365-day returns, plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable.
We have another podcast called Exit Interview where we had people come on and we'd interview their exes or dates and situationships, all that.
So good.
And we had one girl, Tia, and her whole thing, we diagnosed her with cool girl syndrome. That was like, initially we're like, you don't state your needs, like you're not standing up for what you want, you're getting kind of walked all over. So she did. We did like a reconnection. Her instinct was, okay, I did tell this person what I wanted and how I felt, and then they told me they weren't ready for a relationship. And our take was, this is actually positive. You're letting go of the wrong people. But her take at the time was, no, I think I stepped too far. Now, fast forward, she's in like a super happy, healthy relationship. And, you know, clearly like what was meant for her was still there. But it's so hard to see that when you're in the thick of it.
Yes.
Like, how do you stay true to your needs and then confident that like that's actually serving you opposed to what she was thinking at the time, like I was too much?
I think we have to look and say, is it me being rigid? Right? Like, am I being inflexible and saying like, if you don't do this, then I'm done. It's like, okay, was this an ultimatum? Or is it an intrinsic need? Because at the end of the day, it's about a reframe, right? My intrinsic need is I need to have somebody where I can set boundaries, I can say no, I can communicate in my own house. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells, because growing up, that was my non-negotiable. And for her, what I would say is, okay, great. So let's start to reframe this. What do you think about you here? I would use first question I would ask her, okay, tell me, what made it you? What made it you? So I would start to challenge that. Oh, you're too much. What made you too much? Oh, okay, so where did you learn that you saying no meant that somebody was going to walk away? Right? We start to peel back the layers because it's about reframing. I was her. I was her for years of like, I can't say anything. I'm going to push them away. They're not going to like me. I need to get them. I want them to validate me. Just shut your mouth. Don't say anything. My father taught me that, to be a good girl. That's how you get the accolades. And otherwise he walks out. My mother taught me to disassociate and to not have any boundaries, because that's how she kept the family together. When I started to understand that, then it goes, okay, like I'll never forget the first time I set a boundary with someone. This guy told me he was emotionally unavailable, and he like pulled some bullshit. Long story, very long story, very short. He like stopped at a hotel that night, and he came to my house the next morning because he was in town. And he thought we were going to have this whole day as if nothing happened. And he showed up at my house and I had his suitcase packed. I opened the door, I gave it to him, and he, after a minute, he goes, babe, I'm emotionally unavailable. And I said, oh, I know. Yeah. And I said, I know this has nothing to do with me. Now get the fuck off my porch.
Hell yeah.
I felt empowered. I remember I didn't contact him, nothing. The whole weekend. And the next week felt like shit, right? But then I'll never forget, 8 months later, I reached out to him to say, maybe something changed, right? Oh, we had this great connection. He then, all I got back was, hey, babe, I'm actually in LA. You want to get dinner? And I said yes. And then the next literally 20 minutes, I called my mom and she asked me, what do you think changed? And I realized nothing. I canceled that dinner. I met my partner 2 months later. Because the reality is, you have to know that it's not going to be fun in the moment. Saying no to things that don't serve you means you're going to be alone, right? If I ask you for more, that means that there is an opportunity that you will say no, because I'm asking for you to give me more than you have already been giving me. I use this example. If you are looking for a job, you need 100K. Can't have any less than 100K salary. But yet you're taking these jobs, you're dating these people that are coming going, here's 20.
Yeah.
So if I take that $20,000 salary, I won't have my needs met. I'll be resentful. I'm going to overwork, underpay. I'm never going to be satisfied. It's not going to work out, right? So then I would have to say, no, thank you. Doesn't work for me. You don't have enough.
Yeah.
So knowing that's part of it. It's like the same thing of breakups. When people are like, ugh, I don't want it to hurt. It's like, well, then don't be a human then.
Yeah. But don't get into relationships.
I can't get over that this guy said I'm emotionally unavailable. Just like use that as the excuse.
And like stomped at the same time. But you know I'm emotionally unavailable, babe. And I
That's
just
going to be in a screenplay someday.
Right.
I mean, to bring that full circle, though, goes back into our discussion about self-awareness. Just because someone says they're emotionally unavailable and they're aware of it does not mean that they're doing anything about it. That's like basically saying, I am sleepy, but I'm still sleepy. Like I'm a sleepy person right now. I'm not going to drink any caffeine or try to be awake. I'm just a sleepy person. So yeah, it's like a lot of times we think we're doing the work by being self-aware, and then we think other people have done the work because they can name their feelings and name their traumas and their past experiences. But we have to take that at face value and say, this person's giving me information. This is not an excuse.
No, because here's the reality. That's not going to change anytime soon.
No.
You know, it's the same as like, if I know, like when I had goals, when I started going to the gym, I knew I wanted to get stronger. I knew that I like literally couldn't lift my arm. And I was like, this is my goal. Did it happen overnight? Not by a long shot. But every day I committed to myself. I started changing the way I ate. I started changing things in my life, which meant I couldn't go out with friends and have these big dinners, which meant I couldn't do other things because I was on a regimen. But I knew that the risk was worth the reward. And when it comes to dating, it's the same thing. When someone tells you, I'm emotionally unavailable, I'm unsure, I don't know, I can't tell you. This one guy I dated prior to that guy who told me, you know, I'm avoidant. He had to leave his town because he had such a bad reputation with dating.
God.
It was that bad. He was embarrassed out. He left and moved, and he is still single because just because you're able to say, well, I'm avoidant. Great. What are you doing about it? And I will say this.
Yeah.
You know what's not healing? I will tell you what's not. Diagnosing everybody around you.
Oh,
He's an
my
avoidant.
God.
He's a narcissist.
Yes.
A narcissist. Yep. Everyone's favorite word.
Yeah.
That's like
That
back
is
to
not.
victim mode, I think, too, and not accountable.
It is not.
Everyone's so good at diagnosing. Yeah. Everyone's the WebMD of dating problems. Like, yeah, apparently you know what everybody else is doing wrong, but except for yourself.
So I'm all for therapy, but I think therapy speak is another one that's gotten a little out of control. And I'm thinking of your ex's situation of going to therapy every single week, but not really doing the work. You know, because you can go through the motions and do it. Like, how do you know if you're doing the work and really digging versus going through those motions?
Are we seeing any progress, right? Are you being coddled? Are you challenging yourself? Are you seeing even fucking 1% a week? I could say, I made a video today. I was like, you can go to therapy and still be an asshole. Like, you can go to therapy and talk. You have to remember, therapists by nature are more avoidant because they don't have to talk about themselves. So they like to ask questions. I've had many a therapist that I'm like, you're coddling me. You just told, thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, but I just talked to you for 45 minutes. I could have done that to my wall or to my neighbor. What we have to really see is like, do you feel like your therapist is challenging you? Do you feel like you have new tools? Do you feel like you're making progress with these tools? Do you feel like you're starting to see yourself implementing, making new choices, having new ways of challenging things? To me, that's really it, because I've met people that have been in therapy for 20 plus years and you're like, hey, I'd suggest you find a new therapist if this is the shit you're still doing.
I think it's also up to them too. Like, I agree with you. I think by nature, therapists are supposed to meet you where you're at a lot of times. Like, that's in the practice. And that's a big difference of like a coach versus a therapist. So I think that if you are pursuing therapy, which again, but it's kind of on us also to push ourselves. Like, the therapist might not take us there. I mean, yes, they could, but it's also another path to be like, oh, maybe I can talk about something different this session.
100%. Or like knowing, like when I start therapy, anytime I have a new therapist, the first thing I say is, I need you to challenge me. I want you to call me on my shit. Like, I like hard. Don't let me get away with things. And my therapist, the new one I had, she was like, perfect. That's exactly how I work. And it's been awesome. And like vice versa. Like Ryan and I found a couples therapist because not for any reason besides like, I don't think it's a bad idea to go to couples therapy before you want to get married. And for instance, I really liked the therapist. Ryan just didn't resonate with her. He didn't feel comfortable. So he wasn't opening up. He wasn't being himself. And he stopped me and he told me, hey, babe, I'm okay if you want to keep going, but I need to show you how I feel. And the minute he said it, I said, we'll find somebody new. If you are not able to show up and open up and feel safe, I have had a therapist yell at me before because I told her I was struggling to make friends in LA. And she snapped at me and said, I don't know why you'd think you would make friends in LA. That just sounds like delusion. And I was like,
Wow.
are you supposed to say that to me? So it's also knowing thyself, right? Like knowing what works for me, what doesn't. If I don't want someone that's hard, fine, I need someone a little softer, maybe someone that can challenge me in a different way. It's the same with dating, right? Like it's going to take you a minute to find the right therapist. It's going to take you a minute to find your partner. But when you do, you become a better version of yourself. And it's a beautiful journey.
And speaking of Ryan, Mr. Tech Guy, what made him different when you met him, when you two started dating? What was it that was just, you're like, this is the relationship for me?
So it took me a few months to realize that, I'll be honest.
Okay.
When I met Ryan, here's my trajectory. Clem had passed away less than a month prior, and Clem is my best friend. He was my dog of 10 years. So like I lost myself. Shark Tank, I just got told for the second time no. I just started TikTok, so I was nobody. I had nothing. I had no career. I had no money. I had nothing. And I was dating this guy who was wildly avoidant. And that's what I was saying. 2 days before I was supposed to come to San Diego, I ended it with him and I came with my mom instead. And I remember like making a video being like, is it me or are you just fucking exhausted from dating apps, from all these shitty people, whatever. And when he matched with me, I was using the apps passively. I was so in my grief mode. I like was struggling just to like get through dinner sometimes without crying. So I knew I was not in a place like, because Clem was all I had, you know, like I was alone. I had nothing. He was my only object permanence. When I met Ryan, the first thing I noticed was he responded to my prompt on Hinge. He didn't respond to a photo with a full paragraph asking questions, getting curious. And I was like, okay. Went to his profile and I was like, he's not my type. He's attractive. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, he's cute. Oh, he's 6'4". Okay. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll give him a try. And we didn't text a lot, like very minimal, like an hour back and forth. He went right into, I want to take you out. What's your availability? Can I take your number? Perfect. I'll plan the date. I'll never forget on my profile, it said effort equals interest. And I never forget, he said, I can't wait to show you how interested I am by the effort I show.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay.
Love that.
Off the bat. And this is the difference between when I'm so tired of the avoidant conversation of like, oh, that guy's avoidant. It's like, my partner is the true definition of an avoidant attachment, and I am the true definition of an anxious attacher. Do you know when that comes out? When you're triggered. Not just, oh, he just like doesn't want to have conversations at dinner. It's like, that guy just sounds like an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, or avoidant personality disorder, which is a different aspect. And so our first date, like we went on a hike. I thought he was nice. I didn't think anything to call home about. I was just kind of like, meh. And I remember after the date, he said, listen, I'd love to take you to dinner if you're open to it. If not, I totally respect that. And I just thought, fuck it. What do I have to lose? I was like, I'm here. I've got nothing to do today. Let me get to know him better. And we went back to he said, look, follow me back. Let me drop off the dog and then we'll go to dinner. And when he changed and he came out, I remember just thinking like, oh, he's cuter than he was in his workout clothes. And then we hooked up and yeah, we slept together first date.
Then the magic happened.
And then we went to dinner. You know, I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying this for everybody. I'm saying my personal experience. Had I not slept with him, I don't think I would be with him because I saw a different side to him. I saw passion. I saw this version and I was like, but he's so closed off and more like rigid and OCD that I was like, huh. And so that allowed me to see, oh, but he was really fun and we had a good time. He wasn't his rigid self. He was really good. And then at dinner, he opened up a little more. And then the next day I got a text. Hey, I had such an amazing time last night. I'm still smiling. I'd love to see you again. What's your schedule like? That was how he texted me. No bullshit. Not like, hey, babe, how's your day? Hey, beautiful. Good morning. None of that shit. Nothing. And like he called me, he'd FaceTimed me. We'd communicate every other day. We had plans twice a week. I felt safe in this relationship. I was also dating somebody else at the time. And so for me, the other guy, he was the banter, the sexy, the tattooed. He was the guy I always go for. And sure enough, after like 3 dates, when I was kind of mulling it over, I thought I was ready. I'm not. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore.
Don't have time for this. Yeah.
No, thank you. And I then focused on Ryan. And it took me, I said no to him twice about being his girlfriend because I kept telling him, going slow doesn't mean I'm giving you an excuse for bad behavior. I need to see more parts of you. I need you to open up more. I need to see you more vulnerability. I was like, I need to feel more connected to you. And he took that. He goes, all right, got it. And he had a rubric. And then a month later, he said, okay, I want to be with you. And I was like, okay, I feel ready now.
Yeah. In a similar vein, because we're talking about, you feeling really safe in this relationship, you're in a very healthy relationship. But let's get real here. It doesn't mean that your anxiety goes away.
Oh, no.
So can you tell us how anxiety still shows up in a healthy relationship and how we can't expect a relationship to save us and to brush away magically all of the anxiety that exists in our body?
Oh my God, girl. I saw a video the other day from this one guy. I don't talk shit about specific creators, but this guy got on my nerve. And it was a healthy and secure man will heal your anxious attachment. And I was like, I'm done. I am so done with this, because what you're doing is you're setting people up for false expectations.
Yeah.
Here's the reality. Anxiety does not go away. I was born anxious. My mom said from the get, I've always had anxiety. If you knew my household, you'd understand why. There was no safety. And it's also generational. And when I was in my mama's belly, she was dealing with all of this. And so when it comes to a relationship, your anxiety doesn't go away. But what you learn is that your partner creates a space for you to explore it. Mm-hmm. So when I'm anxious and I have that moment, or when he shuts down and gets avoidant, I'll look and say, hey, babe, it sounds like you need space. Do you want to talk in an hour? And then he learns, oh, this is safe. I'm allowed to take this space and you're still there for me when I come back.
Yes.
Same with me. When sometimes I'll be on my loop and I'll look at my partner and I'll say to him, like, I'm going to come out of my skin, and he'll drop his stuff and he's like, talk to me. What can I do to help? Just hearing that, I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. And so it's about knowing that your partner's not going to get rid of the anxiety, but they will create a safe space for you to explore it. They will create a space for you to say, hey, I'll never forget. This was like a couple of months ago. Ryan, he came downstairs. Like in the mornings, I wake up and I'm chipper, right? Anxiety snaps me right up and I'm like, let's get going on the day. And then by 5 o'clock, I'm dead. And for him, he likes to have his hour in the morning. He likes to decompress. He likes to be alone. Uh-huh. And so we've struggled with that. And I came down in the morning and I was all chipper and I'm like hopping down the stairs. And I was like, good morning, babe. What's up? Good morning. And he has his headphones in and he just gives me this like side eye of like, hi, and puts them back in. And I was like, okay, trying to talk. And everything's like, what do you want type thing. I instantly get triggered and I'm like, oh my God, I'm too much. What's wrong? I did. And so instead I stopped and I just sat on the couch and I was like, okay, he's going through something. I didn't do anything. There's nothing I can own, but I will talk to him about this. And he came over a few minutes later and I was like watching a murder mystery because I love that shit.
It's great for anxiety.
Right? Hey, trauma. It's good to see you. And that's a whole nother story. And so I'm like watching this show. It's called Text Me When You Get Home. It's a really great show. He comes and he's like, oh my God, isn't that crazy? I didn't say anything. And like a minute later, he's like, hello. Like I said, isn't that crazy? And I just looked at him and I said, can I ask you, how did that feel for me to dismiss and discredit you? How did that feel for you to feel like you didn't exist in this moment when I tried to talk to you for the last 30 minutes and you shut down on me? And he kind of stopped. He was like, yeah, that felt like shit. And I was like, exactly. So now you can understand how I felt in that moment, that this made me feel really dysregulated because in my own home, I don't feel safe to come down and say good morning to you and talk. Yeah. You can't even say, babe, I'm sorry. I need a moment. I'm going to put my headphones in. And I said, how little respect for me that you have. And he just stopped and he was like, you're right. I really that's really inappropriate of me. And we had like a 20-minute conversation. That right there is what I mean by you heal in relationships. Mm-hmm. Any other relationship, you're too fucking sensitive. Here you go again. Yeah. Of course you're making a thing. But this is the first time I had someone validate, acknowledge, sit down, look me in the eyes and say, what can I do to make this better? That is how you heal through your anxiety. He didn't make this go away. He allowed a safe space for me to express myself and talk about it. And then thank you for hearing me out. Now that acknowledges to little me, you do matter and other people acknowledge that you matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just really curious because you really blew up on the internet and obviously your message really resonates. What do you think was the message that put you on the map where people go, yes, I'm so on board with this. I'm feeling this right now?
The texting. I was one of the first creators I'll never forget the first video I did. I got attacked. Well, the first video I ever did that got 12 million plays was the one about the taxi cab theory. That is proximity and timing, not love. That I got, woo. And then it was when I started to talk about texting of like, texting doesn't mean that this person doesn't like you. All I got was attack from people, like left, right, and center. But at the same time, what did I do was I got an audience of people saying, wait a minute. No one's saying that. Wait a minute. Yeah. That's how I feel. Wait a minute. And so I started because I'll be honest with you, when I first started to create content, you know what didn't do well? I was doing the same shit everybody. If he wanted to, he would. And even I cringe when those videos pop up on TikTok of like, you posted this 2 years ago. And I'm like, no, I didn't. Right?
That wasn't me.
I swear it was the dog. But I think what it really was I came with a different messaging and I didn't back down. I was really fucking like, no, let me help you. Stop waiting for other people to do this and choose yourself. I think I created, and I hope I created a new echo chamber of people like me that were really struggling to feel like they belonged and said, I have something different to say.
I think that's so important. And it kind of takes me to takeaways is, like in dating is inherently anxiety driven. And I think we feel like we need to be, healed fully. And healing is an ongoing thing. It's never going to be fully done. I remember just talking to someone once and him being like, well, when I get to secure, then I can start dating. And it's like, look, like you'll never fully get there. So I love that we normalize today that some of this is, one, inherent, and then also like there's very tactical tools that you can use to curb anxiety and overthinking. And I think people should replay all the different ones and methods you gave, but I'm going to start a trigger journal like tonight. I love that so much. I think that's very important. So that's the one that really stood out to me. Everyone find what works for them, but I think that's so important to like know that you're not alone in this. This is normal. I think like not hearing this on other podcasts, it's like, what's wrong with me? And when we start to like give ourselves compassion and think about like how we talk to ourselves, that's when, we can start to stand up for what we actually want and having that faith that something better is meant for us, even if we say no.
I love that. I could not agree more. And I think at the end of the day, it's like all of us are humans. All of us are experiencing these things. The one thing that set me free was I finally started to validate that I was allowed to feel these emotions.
Yes.
It changed everything.
Yes.
When I stopped being like, oh, what's wrong with me? And I was like, you're sad. It's okay, dude. You're allowed to be sad. Given what you just went through, that would make total sense. You start to feel like you're less crazy and you start to realize like, oh, if I don't validate myself, how do I expect anybody else to?
Oh, that's such a big takeaway of mine is if you want to be seen and heard, you got to see and hear yourself first. And for so many years, we really shamed people for being anxious. We shamed people for overthinking. It was for women like, there she goes again, just being a typical girl, overthinking. And for guys, it's like, oh, don't be such a pussy and overthink, right? Like nobody is allowed to overthink, but that anxiety is so natural in so many of us. And not to be crude, but someone said to me, feelings are like pooping. You got to let it pass through your body. Otherwise, you will be constipated. And I think after this conversation, it's so great that you can find a partner who allows you the space to poop out your feelings.
That's what everyone should strive for.
And not be constipated in your anxiety, because that would be really uncomfortable and that would be really painful. So I really appreciate that. And also just moving that energy around, not moving the poop around, but moving the energy around is also a great takeaway. It's so tactical. I learned the best from my dog. I'm sure you've seen with your dog. Like they just shake things out. They don't hold grudges. Like when I don't pet him, he's not like, am I not good enough for my mom? He's just like shakes it off and he's like, great, back to licking his balls. So he's, like we can there's so many things we can do physically to shake off that energy and just really like let it pass through our body instead of numbing it or band-aiding it. There are other ways to really fully process. So I appreciate that you are the one normalizing the pooping of emotions.
That's the new Instagram bio.
I love that, especially with how much my partner farts. He would so appreciate that. He'd be like, yes, it's your turn. And Julie, too, also to your point, before we wrap this up, the importance of writing.
Yes.
I want anybody to know if you're going to do a trigger journal, don't do it on your phone. It activates a different part of your brain when you have a pen to paper.
I like that.
So just make sure you have, I got a Golden Girls journal and I got it because I love it. My mom and I had to joke with us, and I have different sections in it. One is for reflection, one is for challenging myself, one is for manifesting, and one is just for ideas. Have a journal for you so that you can get it out of here and at least have somewhere safe that you can explore it.
Thank you for adding that. That's really important
point.
because I would have gone to my phone.
Same. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Get off your phone.
Get off your phone.
Yeah, that's a better one too. Just get off your phone. But don't get off your phone just yet, because Sabrina, people want to find out more about you. Where can they go?
SabrinaZohar.com is where you'll find kind of the central hub, or Sabrina.Zohar on TikTok and Instagram, or the Sabrina Zohar Show podcast, wherever they're found. There's a lot. If you just type in my name somewhere along the way, you'll find something.
Oh, so good. For all of our listeners, I'm sure this was such a treat for you. What did you learn from today's episode? Or better yet, I want to find a unicorn who has never experienced anxiety in dating. Is there anybody like that out there who's just never been anxious in dating? Please leave us a rating or review. Of course, 5 stars. Those are the only reviews we look at. But in the body of your review, reveal yourself. Let us know who you are. We're going to have you back on our podcast along with Sabrina because we need the dichotomy of the two. And figure out what's going on in your head. But we really like to find that unicorn. But I'm pretty sure most of you have experienced anxiety of some sort. What a wonderful discussion we just had. Thank you so much again for coming on our show, Sabrina. So wrapping up this episode, stay dateable.